Eleanor Hayes stood at the edge of the crowded chapel, her hands clasped tightly around a worn leather handbag that had seen better days. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and polished wood, a fragrance that clung to her like an unwelcome memory. Her husband, Thomas Hayes, had always insisted on lilies for any occasion: birthdays, anniversaries, even apologies after one of his late-night absences. Now, they adorned his casket, their white petals mocking the darkness that had settled over her life. Thomas had died suddenly, a heart attack while on a business trip to New York, or so the official report said. The doctors claimed it was quick, painless, but Eleanor couldn't shake the feeling that nothing about Thomas's life or death had ever been straightforward. At 62, Eleanor felt every one of her years weighing on her shoulders. Her once vibrant auburn hair was now streaked with silver, pulled back into a simple bun that spoke of practicality rather than vanity. She wore a modest black dress, one Thomas had bought her years ago for a company gala, though she'd rarely worn it since. It hung a bit loose now, a testament to the weight she'd lost in the months leading up to this day, months filled with unspoken tensions and quiet suspicions. For 38 years, she'd been the steadfast wife, the one who managed the household with precision, ensuring every detail of their life in the affluent suburb of Willow Creek was impeccable. Thomas, a successful real estate developer, had built an empire from nothing, and Eleanor had been his silent partner, literally and figuratively. She'd given up her promising career as a marketing executive to raise their son, Michael, and support Thomas's ambitions. "I'll handle the world outside," he'd say, with that charming smile of his. "You make our home a sanctuary." And she had, believing it was love, not obligation. The chapel was filled with mourners, business associates in tailored suits, neighbors, whispering condolences, and a few distant relatives who'd flown in from across the country. Eleanor greeted them all with a composed nod, her voice steady as she thanked them for coming. But inside, a storm brewed. The service began with a hymn, the organ's notes echoing off the vaulted ceiling. Michael, their 35-year-old son, stepped up to the podium next. He was the spitting image of Thomas doll, with sharp features and piercing blue eyes that could command a room. As a software architect for a leading tech firm in Silicon Valley, Michael had inherited his father's ambition but tempered it with a quiet intensity. Today, he wore a crisp navy suit, his tie perfectly knotted, though Eleanor noticed the slight tremor in his hands as he adjusted the microphone. "Friends, family," Michael began, his voice resonant yet edged with emotion. "Today, we say goodbye to a man who shaped not just buildings, but lives. My father, Thomas Hayes, was a visionary. He taught me the value of hard work, integrity, and loyalty." The room nodded in agreement, a murmur of approval rippling through the crowd. Eleanor felt a swell of pride. Michael had always been eloquent, a skill honed from years of debating with his father over dinner. But then, Michael's tone shifted, softening as he paused, his gaze drifting to the front row. "There's someone special I want to thank today. Someone who stood by Dad through his most challenging times, offering support and understanding when he needed it most. Sophia Reynolds. She was more than a colleague. She was family to us." The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Eleanor's heart stuttered, her breath catching in her throat. All eyes turned to the woman in the front row, Sophia Reynolds, Thomas's executive assistant turned business partner. She was in her late 40s, impeccably dressed in a sleek black sheath dress that accentuated her athletic figure, her blonde hair cascading in perfect waves. Delicate tears glistened on her lashes as she stood briefly, acknowledging the room with a graceful nod before sitting back down. Whispers erupted, curious, speculative. "Who is she?" Someone murmured, "Sitting like she's the widow." Eleanor felt invisible, relegated to a side pew as if she were an afterthought. Her knuckles whitened around her handbag, the leather creaking under the pressure. She had known about Sophia, of course. Thomas had hired her a decade ago, praising her efficiency and sharp mind. "She's indispensable," he'd say whenever Eleanor questioned the late nights or weekend trips. But this, being publicly thanked at her husband's funeral as family, it was a knife to the gut, twisting deeper with each sympathetic glance directed not at her, but at Sophia. The service dragged on, hymns blending into eulogies, but Eleanor barely heard them. Her mind raced back through the years, piecing together fragments she'd ignored. The unexplained absences, the secretive phone calls, the way Thomas's eyes lit up when mentioning Sophia's ideas for a new development project. She'd dismissed it as paranoia, a product of her own insecurities after quitting her job. But now, in this sacred space, the truth clawed its way to the surface. As the casket was carried out, Michael approached Sophia, embracing her gently. "You're the one who truly understood him," he whispered, loud enough for Eleanor to overhear. The words shattered something inside her, a fragile illusion of family unity. That evening, back in their sprawling colonial home, Eleanor wandered the empty rooms like a ghost. The house, once a symbol of their success, now felt like a mausoleum. Thomas's study remained untouched, his mahogany desk cluttered with blueprints, a half-empty bottle of scotch on the shelf. She poured herself a glass, the amber liquid burning her throat as she sank into his leather armchair. Memories flooded her, their wedding day in a quaint seaside chapel, Michael's first steps in the backyard, family vacations to the mountains where Thomas would build elaborate snow forts, but interspersed were the cracks. Arguments over money, Thomas's growing distance, the way he'd brush off her suggestions with a patronizing smile. Sleep eluded her that night. Instead, she rifled through old photo albums, yellowed pages revealing a younger version of herself, confident, ambitious, with a career that had promised independence. She'd met Thomas at a marketing conference. He was charming, driven, and they'd built a life together. But after Michael's birth, Thomas had insisted she stay home. "Our family needs you here," he'd said. And she'd agreed, trading boardrooms for PTA meetings, believing it was for the greater good. Now, staring at a photo of Thomas and Sophia at a company retreat, his arm casually around her waist, Eleanor wondered if it had all been a lie. The next morning brought the lawyer's summons. Mr. Harlan Whitaker, a portly man in his 60s with a voice like gravel, welcomed her into his oak-paneled office. Michael was already there, seated rigidly, avoiding her gaze. Pursuant to Thomas Hayes's last will and testament, executed 5 years ago, Whitaker intoned, the bulk of his estate, including the primary residence in Willow Creek, the lake house in Vermont, investment portfolios, and liquid assets shall pass to Ms. Sophia Reynolds. The room spun. Eleanor gripped the armrests, her nails digging into the wood. "What?" she whispered, her voice barely audible. Whitaker continued, listing minor bequests to charities and a small trust for Michael. But nothing for her, not a penny. Michael's face remained impassive, as if he'd anticipated this. "You knew," Eleanor accused, turning to him. He met her eyes briefly, then looked away. "Dad had his reasons. Mom, Sophia, she was there for him in ways you weren't." The betrayal cut deeper than any knife, not just from Thomas, but from her own son. Driving home, rain pelting the windshield, Eleanor felt numb. How had it come to this? She pulled into the driveway, the house looming like a stranger's. Inside, she began searching. Drawers, closets, the basement. In a locked file cabinet, she found it, deeds to properties in Sophia's name. Transfer records from Thomas's company accounts. Dates aligned with times she'd been away visiting her ailing mother, recovering from surgery. Sophia hadn't just been a mistress. She'd been a beneficiary of embezzled funds. Fueled by rage, Eleanor visited her neighbor, Beatrice Caldwell, a retired schoolteacher with a keen eye for gossip. Over tea in Beatrice's cozy kitchen, the truth unraveled. "Sophia, oh dear. She's been around for years," Beatrice said, her eyes widening. "I saw her here when you were out of town. Thomas said she was helping with business matters. They seemed close." Beatrice recounted sightings, symphony outings, holiday decorations, even a weekend at the lake house. "I thought she was a relative," she admitted. Each revelation was a brick in the wall of deception. That night, Eleanor pored over more documents, uncovering photos hidden in a shoebox, Thomas and Sophia on vacations, Michael joining them in some. One photo bore a caption, "Our real family, soon to be forever." The words ignited a fire within her. No longer would she be the silent sufferer. She contacted Clara Voss, an old colleague from her marketing days, now a forensic accountant. "I need your help," Eleanor said. Thomas was stealing from his own company for her. Clara agreed, and together they dug deeper. Bank statements revealed suspicious transfers, shell companies linked to Sophia. "This is fraud," Clara confirmed. "We can build a case." Eleanor felt a spark of empowerment, the first in decades. But the pain lingered, especially with Michael. They met at a local diner, the same one where she'd taken him for milkshakes as a child. "Why are you fighting this?" he demanded. "Sophia didn't do anything wrong. Dad chose her." His words stung, echoing Thomas's dismissals. "I sacrificed everything for this family," Eleanor retorted. "Your education." His words stung, echoing Thomas's dismissals. "I sacrificed everything for this family," Eleanor retorted. "Your education," Our home, all on my back, while he built his empire. Michael shrugged. You were too controlling. Mom. Dad needed someone who let him breathe. The accusation floored her. Was that how they saw her? Strong? Yes, but too much so. Leaving the diner, rain soaking her coat, Eleanor vowed change. She was done being the victim. The lawsuit would be her weapon, reclaiming what was hers. But first, she needed more evidence. Scrolling through Sophia's social media, she found posts intimate moments with Thomas, subtle boasts of their life together. It was a parallel world, one where Eleanor didn't exist, as weeks turned to months. Eleanor's investigation intensified. She hired a private investigator, uncovering emails and receipts that painted a picture of a decade-long affair. Thomas had funneled over $500,000 into Sophia's accounts, disguised as bonuses. The lake house, bought with company funds. The revelations fueled her resolve, but they also isolated her. Friends distanced themselves. Michael stopped calling. Yet, in the solitude, Eleanor rediscovered herself taking art classes, volunteering, rebuilding the confidence she'd lost. The court date loomed, a battle for justice. Sophia, poised and defiant, claimed the gifts were legitimate, but Eleanor's evidence was ironclad. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Harlan, ruled in her favor. Sophia was ordered to repay everything. Her assets liquidated. Broke and disgraced, she vanished from Willow Creek. Michael's reconciliation came slowly. After years of silence, a family crisis. Eleanor's minor health scare brought him back. I was wrong, he admitted over coffee. I see now what you went through. Their hug mended old wounds, laughter returning to their conversations. In the garden, under a blooming cherry tree, Eleanor reflected. She'd planted it years ago, nursing it through storms. Like her, it had survived. As the sun set, she knew her story wasn't one of loss, but rebirth. Eleanor Hayes paced the length of her living room, the hardwood floors creaking under her steps, like old bones protesting the weight of secrets. It had been 6 months since Thomas's funeral, and the house still echoed with his absence, or rather, the illusion of his presence. The walls, adorned with family portraits that now felt like staged theater props, seemed to close in on her. In one frame, Thomas beamed beside her at Michael's college graduation, his arm around her waist. But knowing what she did now, Eleanor saw the forced smile, the distant eyes. How had she missed it? The signs had been there, subtle as spiderwebs in the corners of their marriage. Sophia Reynolds had become more than a name. She was a specter haunting Eleanor's every thought. After the will reading, Eleanor had delved deeper into Sophia's life, piecing together a mosaic of betrayal. Sophia, 48, had started as Thomas's assistant at Hayes Development, rising quickly to vice president. Her LinkedIn profile boasted accolades, innovative leader in urban planning, but Eleanor knew the real story. Thomas had mentored her, promoted her, and apparently, loved her. Social media revealed glimpses, vacations in the Caribbean while Eleanor thought he was at conferences, dinners at exclusive restaurants, even a photo of Sophia wearing a necklace Eleanor had lost years ago. Found this treasure, the caption read, theft, in more ways than one. Michael's allegiance to Sophia gnawed at Eleanor most. Her son, once her confidant, now defended the woman who'd usurped her place. She's not the villain here, Mom, he'd said during their last heated call. Dad was unhappy. Sophia made him feel alive. Unhappy. Eleanor had sacrificed her dreams for that happiness, forgoing promotions, managing finances during lean years, even selling heirlooms to fund Michael's tuition. The emerald brooch from her grandmother, a family relic, had fetched enough for his first semester at Stanford. Did he remember? Determined to uncover the full extent, Eleanor enlisted Clara Voss more formally. Clara, sharp as ever at 65, worked from her home office, a cluttered space filled with ledgers and coffee mugs. Let's audit everything, Clara suggested. They pored over Thomas's company records, obtained through a subpoena. Patterns emerged, irregular payments to consulting firms that traced back to Sophia. One transfer, $75,000, coincided with the purchase of a condo in the city Sophia's address. This isn't just an affair, Clara said, adjusting her reading glasses. It's embezzlement. Thomas siphoned funds to build her a nest egg. The discovery led Eleanor to Beatrice again. The neighbor, with her garden of vibrant tulips, recalled more details over afternoon scones. Sophia drove a fancy car here, once red convertible. Thomas said it was for a client meeting, but they laughed like old lovers. Beatrice's words painted vivid scenes, late-night visits, shared holidays when Eleanor visited relatives. I thought you knew, Beatrice confessed. You always seemed so composed. Composed. That was Eleanor's armor, forged from years of suppressing doubts. Flashbacks assaulted her, a company Christmas party where Sophia clung to Thomas's arm, her laughter tinkling like crystal. Eleanor had felt out of place, a relic in her sensible dress amid the glamour. Thomas had dismissed her jealousy. "You're imagining things." But now, armed with evidence, Eleanor contacted Victoria Kane, a tenacious lawyer specializing in estate fraud. Victoria's office overlooked the bustling city, a stark contrast to Eleanor's quiet suburb. "We have a strong case," Victoria assured, reviewing the files. "But it won't be easy. Sophia's clever. She'll fight back." The lawsuit filed. The media caught wind. Local papers ran headlines. "Widow sues mistress over embezzled fortune." Eleanor became a reluctant celebrity, fielding calls from reporters. Some sympathized. Others painted her as bitter. Michael, furious, cut contact entirely. "You're ruining everything," his last email read. The pain was visceral, like losing him all over again. To cope, Eleanor joined a support group for betrayed spouses, sharing stories in a community center. There, she met women like herself, strong, overlooked, rebuilding. One, a former executive named Lydia, became a friend. "Reclaim your power," Lydia advised. Inspired, Eleanor resumed painting, a hobby abandoned decades ago. Canvases filled her studio, vibrant abstracts reflecting her turmoil. As the case built, more revelations surfaced. The private investigator uncovered emails between Thomas and Sophia, intimate and incriminating. "Can't wait for our life together," one read. Plans to divorce Eleanor, hidden assets. It was a blueprint for abandonment. Michael appeared in some correspondence, Thomas confiding, "Our boy understands." Did he? Eleanor's attempts to reach Michael went unanswered. Deepening her isolation, court proceedings began, a grueling dance of testimonies. Sophia took the stand, poised in a designer suit, claiming innocence. The funds were for legitimate work, she insisted, producing forged invoices. But Victoria dismantled them, presenting bank trails and witness statements. Beatrice testified about the visits. Clara detailed the fraud. Eleanor, heart-pounding, recounted her sacrifices. "I built this family while he built a secret one." The judge nodded thoughtfully. Amid the trial, Eleanor faced personal demons. A health scare, a benign tumor forced reflection. In the hospital, alone, she realized her strength wasn't a flaw but her salvation. Post-recovery, she renovated the house, erasing Thomas's traces, new paint, furniture, even planting a rose garden. It symbolized renewal. The verdict came, guilty. Sophia repaid $800,000. Her career shattered. But victory was bittersweet without Michael. Years passed. Eleanor traveled, volunteered, found joy in independence. Then, Michael's call. "Mom, I need to talk." At a park bench, tears flowed. "I was blind," he admitted. "Sophia manipulated me too." Reconciliation began, slow but genuine. Under a blooming rosebush, Eleanor smiled. Life, like her garden, could flourish anew. With the courtroom echoes fading, Eleanor Hayes stepped into a world remade. The judgment against Sophia Reynolds had restored not just finances but a sense of justice, though scars remained. The $1.2 million repayment interest included allowed Eleanor to secure her future, investing wisely. Traveling to places Thomas had promised but never delivered. Yet, the void left by Michael's estrangement lingered like an unfinished canvas in her studio. She painted feverishly now, her art exhibited in local galleries, a testament to rediscovered passion. Critics praised her raw emotion, unaware it stemmed from betrayal's forge. Sophia's downfall was swift. Disgraced, she moved away, rumors of bankruptcy trailing her. Eleanor felt no glee, only closure. Let her rebuild, she told Victoria over lunch. The lawyer, now a friend, nodded. You've inspired many. Indeed, Eleanor's story spread through women's networks, empowering others to fight similar battles. Michael's return started with a tentative email. Can we meet? They chose neutral ground, a coastal cafe overlooking waves that mirrored Eleanor's turbulent journey. He looked older, lines etching his face from stress. I defended a lie, he confessed. Sophia convinced me you were the problem. Tears fell as he recounted manipulations, gifts, flattery, positioning herself as a maternal figure. Dad's letters. They twisted everything. Eleanor listened, heart aching but open. I never stopped loving you, she said. Hugs bridged years of silence. Rebuilding their bond took time. Weekend visits evolved into holidays together. Michael introduced his fiancée, Anna, a kind-hearted teacher who admired Eleanor's resilience. You're a role model, Anna said. Family dinners filled the house with laughter, erasing old ghosts. Eleanor shared stories of her youth adventurous travels, career triumphs revealing layers Michael never knew. "You were always strong," he marveled. "I just didn't see it." Eleanor's life blossomed. She volunteered at a women's shelter, mentoring those escaping toxic relationships. One mentee, a young mother named Sarah, reminded her of her self-sacrificing dreams for a partner. "Don't wait for permission to live," Eleanor advised. Her art career soared. A solo show in the city drew crowds. There, under spotlights, she felt truly seen for the first time. Flashbacks wove through her days. Childhood in a small town. Ambitious dreams quashed by marriage. Thomas's charm had swept her away, but hindsight revealed control masked as care. "I chose poorly," she confided to Clara during a visit. Clara, ever pragmatic, replied, "But you chose wisely now for yourself." A new romance entered subtly. At an art class, she met David, a widowed architect with kind eyes and a gentle laugh. Dates were simple walks, museums building trust, slowly. "You're extraordinary," he said one evening. Eleanor blushed, unused to compliments, untethered to obligation. Years later, at Michael's wedding, Eleanor gave a toast. "Life tests us, but love endures." "Daniel, wait," Michael hugged her. "Thanks, Mom." In the garden, under a thriving oak she'd planted post-trial, she reflected. Storms had come, but roots held firm. As sunset painted the sky, Eleanor knew peace. She was whole, free, alive.